There are 8 billion people on the planet, and more than half of us live in urban areas. Living space is getting tight, temperatures are rising, and cities are getting dirtier too. It's time to cool things down. How about with plants? They help cut air pollution too. Rats, meanwhile, don't mind heat or dirt. They multiply rapidly, gnaw on everything from bin liners to cables, and can transmit diseases. In Berlin, they're successfully kept in check. Welcome to DW Science Show.
Berlin, a booming capital, with a booming rodent population system, such as rats. Because here, like elsewhere, plenty of them are living underground. Leading. Rats are not welcome in Germany's southwest. Initial steps seem promising in terms of tackling the rodent issue and reducing damaging effects on both water and the environment.
High summer. The heat can be especially oppressive in urban areas. While animals attempt to cool down by panting or lying on cool floors, we people sweat it out or turn on the air conditioning if we have one. And many do. But air conditioning uses a lot of energy, and that's not the only downside. We take a look at Singapore.
Air conditioning units are ubiquitous in Singapore to help cope with the hot and humid climate. But these appliances are part of the problem because they contribute to rising temperatures. Lu Yijun Yolanda studies architecture and sustainable design. With the help of a thermal imaging camera, she's identified a vicious circle.
It will release more heat to the urban environment. It will increase the higher urban heat island effect. So it's not good for the urban environment.
What further exacerbates the situation in Singapore is the rapid growth that's underway. There are more and more residents and more concrete. In recent years, temperatures in Singapore have risen twice as fast as in the rest of the world. Vera Sekaran has lived here for years. But dealing with the heat every day is challenging even for him.
You can see, right? When you saw me when I'm walking in, I'm still a little bit perspiring here. It's actually 11 o'clock in the morning. It's overcast and the humidity is picking up.
Vera Sekaran is an architect and botanist, affectionately known as the plant whisperer. His weapon against climate change is as simple as it is effective: vertical green spaces on the walls of buildings.
You can feel when I'm standing here, just close by, right? I can feel this heat reduce significantly because the plants are respiring and photosynthesizing. When the plants photosynthesize, they release oxygen. And they're actually basically taking away my carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So when you have got that biochemistry going around in the city, you'll realize the CO2 level drops, the immediate heat actually drops, and that makes a big difference.
30 different plant species are growing on this wall. A sophisticated irrigation system provides the necessary nutrients. Workers trim the greenery twice a month. In the long term, it even has financial advantages.
Your air conditioning cost inside is actually cheaper and lower. So that's cost you're saving as well. So spending a few dollars to save a few $1,000s is actually a very good business.
Lu Yijun Yolanda shows us another building that illustrates what a difference greenery can make. This facade is partly covered in plants. The other surfaces, steel and concrete, are completely exposed to the sun. The difference in temperature is a whopping 5 degrees Celsius. But Singapore can't combat rising temperatures with greenery alone. It's also promoting sustainable buildings and allowing more spaces in between them. The new university, for example, has solar cells on its roof, helping ensure net zero emissions. Professor Vera Sekaran teaches here. He shows us how a simple ceiling fan is enough to keep students cool. It's all very open plan, allowing a gentle breeze throughout the premises.
The building is actually very similar if you go into a forest. There's some trees, some buildings which are very tall, some trees which are very tall and different layers as well. So trying to bring back forest architecture into cityscapes is very important to try and involve designs of the future as well. So nature-based solutions are part and parcel of that.
And it looks spectacular too. This hotel in the center of Singapore has won awards. It lives and breathes with flourishing green terraces and gardens. Singapore subsidizes sustainable architecture and is pursuing ambitious long-term goals. 1 million new trees are to be planted by 2030. And the plan is to have so many parks that no one will have to walk more than 10 minutes to be surrounded by nature. This project is called Cooling Singapore. The researchers have programmed a digital twin of the city. This allows them to simulate how temperatures can be lowered with individual projects. A thermal image showing today's daily temperatures in Singapore is shown on the left. On the right, what it would look like if all buildings were energy efficient and sustainable. The whole city would be 1 to 2 degrees cooler. Singapore sees itself as a driving force for Southeast Asia in the fight against rising temperatures and is investing billions. Unlike other developing countries, however, the wealthy city-state can afford to do so.
One of the big problems with cities is that the many sealed surfaces like concrete and asphalt store heat. And when there's heavy rain, these surfaces stop the water from infiltrating the soil. That's one reason why many cities are starting to plant tiny forests. These microforests can help bring temperatures down, store water, and much more.
Stefan Schaffer has a dream. He wants to grow mini primeval forests, known as tiny forests, across Germany. After raising €14,000 through crowdfunding, the forest scientist and his colleagues planted their first tiny forest in the German state of Brandenburg, a total of 3,000 ground cover plants, shrubs and trees, all native species. Densely planted, they compete for light and so grow relatively quickly. Japanese plant sociologist Akira Miyawaki developed the tiny forest concept in the 1980s. They're small, primeval forests, rich in species, wild and resilient, and particularly suitable for cities. I've brought a few examples of how a Miyawaki forest could potentially develop. A very dense green wall, various shrubs, climbing plants, up to really tall trees at the back, so that after a really short time you have an impenetrable primeval forest, or a replica of one. And that can have a cooling effect on areas suffering in the heat. Stefan Schaffer looked to natural processes occurring in native woodland to understand what tiny forests need to thrive. These leaves, the biomass that drops from the trees, we try to compensate for in the first few years by laying down straw or chopped hardwood. The aim is to ignite a process. We provide the forest system with what it would normally develop itself over a few decades, and then, after a short time, leave it to its own devices. The forest doesn't need to laboriously build up this soil life and this humus, because it's there from the start. Schaffer and his colleagues enriched part of this field with nutrients, according to Miyawaki's concept, before planting the trees and shrubs. They left another part of the soil as it was, so not enriched. Would there be a difference? A 3D scanner shows how the plants are developing. And the results are clear. On the right-hand area, where the soil was prepared, there is far more vigorous growth. This is the very most vital corner we have. It's so dense. The forestry expert wants to garner enthusiasm for tiny forests throughout Germany. He's now on his way to a hospital campus with a piece of wasteland which will be turned into a forest. The soil has already been prepared. There's much to do before the first trees go into the ground. Stefan Schaffer mixes native ground shrubs, woody plants and tree seedlings into planting bundles. Hospital staff and patients, interested parties and above all children are warmly invited to the planting day. So this is a tree and this is its root. And when we plant a tree, we make the hole deep enough for the root to fit into. We want to see roughly where the root ends. That's where it should be in the ground. For Stefan Schaffer, tiny forests can play an important educational role, teaching the next generation how to plant a green powerhouse amid the asphalt and concrete. That's important because tiny forests have a lot to offer cities in the face of climate change. They clean the air of particulate matter, sulfur dioxides and nitrogen oxides, and boast 18 times more biodiversity than in natural mixed forests. Surface temperatures in the forest shade can be up to 30 degrees Celsius lower than on sealed surfaces. And they have a cooling effect on surrounding air temperatures too, dropping them by 2 to 3 degrees. What about watering the forest later on? As a rule of thumb, the tiny forest is watered for another 2 to 3 years and then no longer needs any outside input. A lot of time and commitment went into preparing and planting this first tiny forest here. But after just 4 months, it's paying off. The former wasteland is already offering up its first delicacies.
Floods, whether they're caused by heavy rain or rising sea levels. They can have especially serious consequences in cities. If the water can't drain away, houses and streets get flooded. To protect itself from this threat, Mumbai is caring for its mangrove forests. Venice has built a multi-billion-euro flood barrier. And other cities are waterproofing too.
Gothenburg, Sweden, sometime in the future. In just 5 minutes, there's more than 15 litres of rainfall per square metre. The water can't drain away fast enough. Is this what heavy rain could look like one day in this Swedish city? Fortunately, this was just a simulation. For the people of Gothenburg, this kind of disaster scenario is hard to imagine. But the city is already preparing for an emergency. Gothenburg sits right on the waterfront. Sea levels here in the north are also rising due to higher temperatures and melting glaciers, and extreme weather events are becoming more frequent. Combined, this poses a serious threat to the city, says Deputy Mayor Karin Pleijel.
We are the most vulnerable city in Sweden, in fact, because we are threatened from 3 directions. We have the sea level and the storms coming from the west and pressing up the water to the city from the sea. And we have the Göta River, which also will have a rising water level and threatening us from that side, and also the heavy rainfalls.
Flooding in downtown Gothenburg is not uncommon even now. These images are from August 2023. Realistic visualizations of these potential scenarios could get the right people to pay attention and take action. That's why Gothenburg has created a digital twin, and it's based on real data. Back in the 1980s, the city began compiling all the information it could about soil conditions, water and sewage pipes, and the road and rail network. Every single tree is noted in a centrally accessible database with its age and height.
We can read every data within the city. And we also have parts of the data are open data to the community. Actually, we have the...
Based on this data, Eric Chanson's team recreated the city with all its details in 3D. Even the roofs have the right shape. And even the gullies are in the right place.
By working with this parametric modeling, we can change the city and visualize it in several different ways. So that's a very strong mechanism in the digital twin, just working with parametric visualization.
The Universium Science Centre depicts what will happen if the sea level rises even further, and also the various measures that could protect Gothenburg's inner city centre from the water. These yellow lines represent low walls that would hold back river water. And in fact, some of them are already being built. Lisa Ekström is the climate strategist for the Gothenburg City Planning Office.
Here at Parkhuskajen we have raised the wall next to the shore to protect the city that's on the inside of the wall.
The height of the wall was precisely calculated in advance. This is just one measure to protect the city from rising sea levels.
The digital twin could be good for the city to show all the measures that need to be done and why it has to be done. And I think it's a good tool to visualize for the politicians and for our citizens to show what could happen to Gothenburg in the future.
The problems are known, now it's a case of making the right decisions. For example, big locks could be constructed that seal the city off from the sea. And during heavy rain, specially created open spaces could ensure that the water collects more quickly and can seep away. Like here in a new development near the Göta River.
This area can contain 500 cubic meters of water. When the heavy rain is coming, it can collect the water here and save the buildings and the housings and everything around.
The greenery here also helps to provide a healthy urban climate.
Do you have a science question? Then send it to us as a video, text, or voice message. If we answer it on the show, we'll send you a little surprise as a thank you. So come on, just ask. This week's question comes from Klaus W. from Paderborn in Germany.
Is the Earth getting lighter, or is it gaining weight? Our planet weighs almost 6 septillion kilograms. This can be determined fairly accurately with the help of satellites and a mathematical formula. The Earth's weight is constantly changing. It has enough gravity to retain its atmosphere, but in the upper layers of gases, gravity is no longer sufficient, and lighter elements such as hydrogen and helium disappear into outer space. The Earth loses around 96,000 tons of weight this way each year. Radioactive decay reduces the weight of our planet too. This converts matter into energy, which then escapes into space as radiation. This happens mainly in the Earth's interior and in rocks such as autunite near the surface. Radioactive decay accounts for around 7 tons of weight loss every year.
2, 1.
Space travel also lowers the Earth's weight. When we send rockets into space to transport satellites and exploration robots to other celestial bodies, the building material that these high-tech machines are made of comes from Earth. Space exploration lightens the planet by around 1,000 tons per year. But the Earth is not just losing weight, it's also gaining it, partly thanks to a constant trickling down of dust from outer space. This cosmic dust comes from asteroids orbiting the Sun behind Mars and, above all, from comets. Sometimes we can even see these specks of dust as shooting stars. And every now and then, larger chunks crash to the ground as meteorites. All of this adds an extra 16,000 tonnes of weight to the Earth each year. So, doing the math, we end up with a weight loss of 81,000 tonnes per year. Which means the Earth is getting lighter, but only by a tiny fraction of a percent. Almost nothing.
And that's all from us this time around. Thanks for watching. We're back soon. See you then. And in the meantime, take care.